In a world where every choice carves its own path, the tale of four couples reveals a haunting truth. The decisions we make can define or destroy us. Welcome to Echoing Tales, where love, trust, and sacrifice are put to the ultimate test, and the echoes of our actions reverberate long after they are made. Tonight's story, Cabin of Choices, will leave you questioning. How far would you go to save the one you love? The sun rose over bustling Bangalore, its golden light weaving through high rises and IT parks. Four couples, connected by college bonds and professional ties, began their mornings with distinct routines. Karthik, a meticulous software architect, sipped filter coffee while scrolling the news, his wife Divya folding laundry nearby. Don't forget, my parents are visiting next weekend, she reminded him, her calm demeanor contrasting with his exasperation. Their arranged marriage blended tradition with occasional tension, sustained by a quiet unspoken rhythm. Across town, Aditya searched for his blue tie. If you stop treating the wardrobe like a treasure hunt, you'd find it, teased Farah, his wife and cybersecurity analyst, as she served appam and stew. Despite societal challenges, he a Hindu, she a Muslim, their mornings were a mix of humor and affection, their bond fortified by resilience and love. In another apartment, Priya and Rohit's day began with playful squabbles. Stop stealing my water bottle, Priya chided, earning a sheepish grin from her husband. Both developers, their mornings were filled with affectionate banter, echoing their camaraderie from college. Meanwhile, Arjun and Nithi moved with precision, exchanging polite reminders about work. Their arranged marriage, rooted in shared Rajput heritage, thrived on discipline and respect, though deeper emotional intimacy was still evolving. As Bangalore came alive, these couples balanced love, ambition, and routine, unaware of the challenges that would soon test their bonds. Their day had just begun. By evening, the couples gathered at a chic club in Indranagar, the city alive with music and laughter. Conversations flowed, shifting from work gossip to Valentine's Day plans. Aditya and Farah talked about a cozy dinner at a rooftop restaurant, while Rohit and Priya planned a weekend hike. Karthik, hesitant about public displays of affection, joked about watching a classic Tamil movie marathon. It was Nidhi who changed the tone, her eyes twinkling mischievously. Why don't we skip the usual and do something unique? How about a weekend getaway to a cabin nestled by the mangrove forest near Varkala beach? The idea caught everyone's attention. The thought of escaping the city's chaos for a secluded, serene location was irresistible. Excited chatter filled the room as they finalized plans. Friday morning arrived with anticipation in the air. The group split into two SUVs, laughter and playlists setting the mood for the journey. The highway gave way to narrow roads flanked by dense forest. The GPS led them to a winding trail that ended at a clearing where the cabin stood. The cabin stood rustic yet elegant, its wooden facade blending seamlessly with the towering trees around it. A small creek gurgled nearby, its melody mingling with bird song, while the setting sun cast long shadows across the forest, giving the place an eerie charm. Nidhi had discovered the cabin online, drawn in by glowing reviews of its serenity and unique character. Booking it had been seamless, almost too easy. A stranger had dropped the key at her office, along with a handwritten note containing the location and a few cryptic details about the place. Inside, the cabin exuded a cozy yet unsettling ambience. The living room featured vintage furniture and a fireplace adorned with an old faded portrait of a man whose eyes seemed to follow their every move. Above, a grand chandelier swayed faintly, as though stirred by an invisible hand. As the couples explored their rooms, They admired the intricately carved wooden beds and the hand-painted murals on the walls. Yet, amidst the excitement of the weekend ahead, some couldn't shake a faint feeling of unease. When night fell, the forest outside stirred with life. Rustling leaves, distant howls, and the occasional snap of a twig. The air turned colder, and the group gathered around the fireplace, their laughter and chatter carrying a nervous edge as they discussed plans for the next day. The first day at the cabin was a refreshing escape. The group spent the morning exploring the forest trails, taking photographs and indulging in friendly banter. The afternoon was filled with laughter as they played games, sharing memories of their college days. By evening, the cozy cabin was alive with festive atmosphere. Soft romantic music played in the background as they toasted to love and friendship. The fireplace crackled warmly, and the dim light cast a serene glow across their happy faces. It was late in the night when an unexpected knock interrupted their laughter. The group fell silent, exchanging uneasy glances. Who could it be at this hour? Priya whispered, her voice barely audible. Arjun cautiously opened the door to reveal a man standing on the porch. Dressed in hiking clothes, his boots were caked with mud, and a well-worn backpack hung over his shoulder. He appeared to be in his early 40s, his salt and pepper hair and calm and intelligent expression giving him an air of quiet confidence. Good evening, the man began, his tone polite but weary. I'm Dr. Anant, the botanist. I was in the forest collecting plant samples for my research when my vehicle got a flat tire. I decided to walk along the trail and lost my way as it got dark. Then I saw the lights of your cabin and I thought I would ask if I could stay the night. I promise I'll leave early in the morning. The group hesitated. Letting a stranger into the cabin, especially in such an isolated setting, felt risky. Yet his demeanor seemed genuine and his explanation plausible. He looks like a decent guy, Karthik offered. We can't just leave him out there. After a brief discussion, they agreed. All right, Nidhi said, her tone firm but accommodating. You can stay, but you'll have to sleep in the hall. Thank you, Anand replied, stepping inside with visible relief. I promise I won't be a bother. The group quickly warmed to Anand's presence as he settled into the living room. He spoke with ease, his conversation filled with fascinating anecdotes about his travels and research, captivating everyone's attention. So, Dr. Anand, Farah began with a curious smile. Why are you out here alone on Valentine's Eve? No plans with your wife or someone special? Anand's chuckle was hollow. I was married once, he began, his voice tinged with bitterness. She was everything to me. Smart, kind, beautiful. I thought we had it all. But love has a way of showing you just how blind you can be. He paused, his gaze fixed on the flickering flames. One day, I found out she'd fallen for someone else. She didn't even try to deny it, just said she wasn't happy anymore and left. No explanations, no second chances. Just gone. Anand's voice grew colder. It broke something in me, Not just my heart, my belief in love itself. People like to say love is selfless, pure. But in the end, it's selfish, fleeting. Everyone is looking out for themselves. He leaned back, his expression unreadable. Since then, I've wondered, what would people really do for love? How far would they go? Or is it all just a pretty lie? His words struck a chord. After a pause, Farah asked, Do you think love always requires sacrifice? Anand smiled softly. Not always, but sometimes. The real question is, how much are you willing to give up? And how much is too much? For some, love means letting go of dreams. For others, it means letting go of each other. Aditya leaned forward, his voice determined. I'd give anything for Farah. My comfort, my ambitions, even my dreams if it came down to it. The others shared similar sentiments, each professing their devotion and their willingness to sacrifice for their partners. Yet, Anand's word lingered in the air, making them pause and consider the deeper complexities of love, marriage, and the fine balance between personal ambition and shared happiness. As the night edged past midnight, fatigue crept in. Anand excused himself, assuring them he would leave quietly at dawn. Thank you for your kindness, he said. It's rare to see such camaraderie and devotion. The group retired to their rooms, the warmth of the day lingering but tinged with the mysterious aura of their unexpected guest. As the cabin settled into silence, the forest outside seemed to grow darker, the sounds of the wilderness more pronounced. The couple slept through most of the following day, the events of the night leaving them utterly drained. It was only by evening that they stirred, groggy and disoriented, only to be confronted with an unthinkable horror. Each pair found themselves seated on a rickety wooden chairs, facing one another, their legs lifeless and unresponsive. A chilling realization settled over them. They were paralyzed from the waist down. The gaps between the couples created an isolating sense of separation, amplifying their unease. They struggled to move, but the effort only made their helplessness more apparent. Panic etched itself into their faces as they exchanged terrified glances, the eerie stillness of the cabin amplifying their dread. The faint flicker of a single lantern suspended overhead cast long, distorted shadows across the cramped room, each creak of the chairs echoing ominously. Anand sat calmly in a chair before them, his earlier warmth replaced with an unsettling calmness. A small case rested on the table beside him, holding 4 vials of a clear liquid. Good morning, he said with a chilling smile. You're probably wondering why you can't feel your legs. I laced your drinks last night with an extract from a rare shrub. It temporarily paralyzes the lower body and over time will cause a complete shutdown of your senses. You will die in a few hours, unless, of course, you receive the antidote. The group erupted in chaos, shouting, pleading, and cursing, but Anand raised his hand to silence them. Let me finish, he said, his tone sharp. I have only 4 doses of the antidote, 1 for each couple. Only one of you can survive. You have until I return in an hour to decide who it will be. Choose wisely. Love, as you all claimed last night, demands sacrifice. Let's see how far you're willing to go for your partners. With that, he left the cabin, leaving the couples to face their worst fears. Tears welled in Divya's eyes as she looked at Karthik, her voice trembling. Karthik, you've always been my rock. If anyone deserves to survive, it's you. You need to take the antidote. Karthik shook his head vehemently, his voice resolute. No, Divya, I can't imagine a life without you. If someone has to go, it should be me. You have your whole life ahead of you. Divya hesitated, her hands trembling as she reached out to him. But, Karthik, there's something I need to tell you. What is it? He asked, his heart racing at the vulnerability in her tone. She lowered her gaze, her voice barely a whisper. I'm pregnant. Karthik froze, the weight of her words sinking into him like a tidal wave. You're pregnant? His voice cracked, a mixture of disbelief and a glimmer of joy. Why didn't you tell me before? I was waiting for the right moment, Divya said, her voice faltering. A tear slid down her cheek. I wanted to surprise you. But now I don't know what to do. I want to save our child, but not at the cost of losing you. Karthik's voice shifted. The thought of a child, their child, ignited a fierce protectiveness within him. He had longed for this, begged Divya to consider starting a family, but she had always asked for more time. And now, amidst this chaos, she had given him the news he had dreamed of hearing. No, Divya, he said after a long pause, his voice soft yet firm. If you're pregnant, there's no question. You need to take the antidote. Our child needs you. Her lips trembled as she shook her head. But Karthik, I can't let you do this. I'll raise a child to know how brave their father was. But I can't let you leave me like this. Don't you see? Karthik interrupted, his tone urgent yet tender. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about the baby. You have to survive for them. I want this child to have the best life, and they need their mother for that. Please, Divya. She closed her eyes, as if wrestling with the decision, before finally nodding. All right, Karthik, I'll do it, but only because you believe in me. Karthik exhaled, relief and heartbreak mingling as he reached out, his trembling hand finding hers. Their fingers intertwined, a silent promise passing between them. His mind was consumed with thoughts of the life they had just begun to dream about. A life he would not see but would leave in her hands. You'll take it, Aditya said to Farah, his voice steady despite a storm raging inside him. I can't let you go. Farah, you'll take the antidote. Farah shook her head, her eyes brimming with tears. Aditya, you are the glue holding us all together. I'm not as strong as you. You have to survive, for our parents and for everything we have built. Aditya's resolve faltered, his hands trembling, his voice lowered almost a whisper. Farah, I don't want to live without you anyway, especially after I learned you may not have much time left. Farah froze, her breath catching in her throat. What? She asked, her voice barely audible. What are you talking about? Aditya's eyes widened slightly, as if he hadn't meant to let it slip. He looked away, guilt shadowing his face. The doctor called me day before yesterday with your test results. She stared at him, disbelief washing over her. But the report wasn't supposed to come for 2 more days. Aditya hesitated, then met her gaze with pained honesty. It came day before yesterday, he admitted. I was going to tell you after this trip. I wanted us to have one last vacation, Farah. One where we could just be happy. Farah's knees weakened, her mind reeling. Cancer? She whispered, as if saying it out loud would make it real. Aditya's hands gripped Farah's tightly. I didn't know how to tell you. I thought we could make these days count before everything changed. Tears streamed down Farah's cheeks as she absorbed his words. She shook her head slowly, her voice steadying with a strange clarity. Then you have to take the antidote, Aditya. If I am going to go anyway, someone has to stay behind. Someone has to take care of our parents, of everything we have worked for. Farah, no, Aditya said, his voice breaking. I can't do this without you. You have to, she insisted, her hands gripping his hands tightly. Our parents, they need you. You will have to be there for them. When I can't. Aditya hesitated, his face torn with anguish. Finally, with a trembling breath, he nodded. All right, he whispered. I will do it, but only because you are asking me to. Farah smiled faintly through her tears, her hands brushing his cheek. Neither spoke, their hearts heavy with the unspoken truths that had changed everything, the silence between them saying more than words ever could. You have to take the antidote, Priya declared, her voice steady but her eyes brimming with emotion. No, Rohit said, his tone firm and final. I can't let that happen. Priya, I won't lose you. Priya hesitated, her gaze dropping as if she were struggling with something. After a pause, she looked up, her voice quieter but laced with an ache. Rohit, there's something I've been holding back. I didn't want to bring this up now, but I saw the messages on your phone. Rohit blinked in confusion. Messages? What messages? From your ex, Priya said softly, her voice cracking slightly. I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to doubt you. But they were there, Rohit. He frowned, his heart pounding. Priya, that was just work related. She reached out about a project. I didn't even think it mattered enough to tell you. There's nothing else. Priya gave a small nod, looking away. Maybe, but it made me wonder, Rohit. Do you love me as much as I love you? Priya, of course I do, Rohit said, exasperation creeping into his voice. You're everything to me. She let out a small shaky breath. I've sacrificed so much for us, Rohit. Do you remember? Moving away from my family, giving up the career I dreamed of, staying silent when your parents blamed me for things that weren't my fault. I did it all because I love you. Her voice caught, and she looked at him, tears glistening in her eyes. And now, I'm ready to give up my life for you, because that's how much you mean to me. Rohit felt a pang in his chest, a mix of guilt and helplessness. Priya, I never realized how much you've done for me. I'm sorry if I made you feel unappreciated. It's not about that, she said, shaking her head. It's about love, Rohit. And love means doing what's right even when it hurts. Rohit swallowed hard, the weight of her words pressing down on him. No, he finally said, his voice trembling. You have done enough for me, Priya. It's my turn now. You will take the antidote. I can't let you go. Priya hesitated, her voice wide with emotion, before giving him a slow, almost reluctant nod. If that's what you truly feel, Rohit, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Rohit touched her arms, his heart heavy with love and sorrow, as though this act of sacrifice was the only way he could make up for all she had done for him. Nidhi's voice was sharp as she crossed her arms. You are a man, Arjun. Isn't it your responsibility to protect me? Sacrifice your life for me like a real man would. Arjun scoffed, leaning back against the chair with a smirk. Oh, come off it, Nidhi. Aren't women always claiming to be the epitome of sacrifice? The nurturers, the ones who endure everything for their loved ones? Well, here's your chance to prove it. Go ahead, make the ultimate sacrifice. Nidhi's eyes narrowed, her tone turning. My life is far more valuable than yours, Arjun. I actually have ambitions, goals. You have been stuck in that dead-end job for years, pretending it's all for us. Be honest, you have been going nowhere. Arjun bristled, his voice rising. And what about you? Flitting from one half-baked idea to another, chasing dreams that never go anywhere. At least I've provided stability. Let's face it, Nidhi, you'd be lost without me. Don't flatter yourself, she snapped. If anything, you've been dragging me down. My life would be better without you. Funny, Arjun shot back, his eyes cold. I was just about to say the same thing about you. The tension crackled between them, the bitter words hanging in the air like daggers. Finally, Nidhi pointed a trembling finger at him. If I'm not getting the antidote, then neither are you. Let's both die and put an end to this once and for all. Arjun nodded, his voice laced with venom. Fine by me. If I'm going, I'm taking you down with me. No antidote for either of us. They sat there, glaring at each other, the room heavy with resentment. Whatever love or affection had once existed between them was now buried beneath layers of bitterness and contempt. Anand returned an hour later, his expression as inscrutable as ever. He carried 4 vials in his hand, the antidote glinting faintly in the dim light of the cabin. Anand moved methodically, administering the antidote to the chosen ones among the first 3 couples, without a word. When he reached Nidhi and Arjun, he paused, his gaze icy. You have made no decision, he said sharply as they began arguing again. Cutting them off, he raised the vial and smashed it on the floor, the antidote spilling away. This test was about sacrifice, Anand said coldly. Neither of you was willing to make one. Now, the choice is no longer yours. Saying this, he walked out of the cabin. The couples exchanged tearful farewells through trembling voices, their hands reaching out to clasp each other's in a desperate bid for connection. Eyes locked across the room, they poured out unspoken words, apologies and promises. Some whispered prayers, while others let the silence carry their final goodbyes. As the clock ticked past the hour, shock rippled through them. Sensations returned to their legs. No one had died. For a moment there was confusion. Everyone was still standing, even those who hadn't taken the antidote. Eyes darted around the room, disbelief etched on their faces. We are all alive, Farah murmured, her voice trembling with equal parts relief and amazement. Karthik stared at his hands, flexing his fingers. It doesn't make sense. How is this possible? But the disbelief quickly gave way to overwhelming joy. Tears flowed freely as they embraced each other, laughter erupting like a release valve for their pent-up tension. Karthik turned to Divya, holding her close. I'm so glad we'll have this chance. For us, for our child, he said, his voice trembling with emotion. Divya smiled weakly, her arms around him, but her reply was tentative. Karthik, I'm not sure yet. I haven't confirmed it. Farah clung to Aditya, sobbing into his chest. We'll make the most of whatever time we have left, she whispered. Aditya nodded, guilt flickering in his eyes, but he didn't say a word. Rohit kissed Priya's forehead, his voice filled with remorse. I'm sorry for all the times I made you feel less loved. I'll never let that happen again. Priya smiled softly, her tone comforting. I know, Rohit. That's why I chose you. In stark contrast, Nidhi and Arjun sat apart from the group, their silence heavy. Neither spoke, but the tension between them was palpable. As the cabin grew quiet, they discovered a note from Anant on the table. Congratulations, you have survived. Or have you? Tonight has laid bare the lies and manipulations you each carry. Love is not about grand gestures or self preservation, but trust, honesty, and respect. Reflect on what you have learned, or suffer the consequences of ignoring it. Only time will tell what truly endures. The next few days unraveled the aftermath of the test. Karthik couldn't shake Divya's hesitant words. As he probed further, he uncovered the truth. There was no pregnancy. Divya had fabricated the story, preying on his greatest desire to save herself. The revelation hit him like a blow, and his trust in her was shattered. The joy he once felt for their future together was replaced by deep bitterness. Farah received her actual medical report 2 days later. Her hands trembled as she read the result. Perfectly healthy. Rage simmered as she confronted Aditya. You lied to me! You used me! She shouted. Aditya could only stammer, his attempts at justification falling flat. Their love, once seemingly unshakable, disintegrated under the weight of his betrayal. Rohit began to reflect on Priya's words and actions during the test. The sacrifices she mentioned, the stories she shared, they all felt calculated, designed to prey on his guilt. Slowly, the realization dawned. Priya had manipulated him. Their marriage, which once felt like a partnership of equals, now stood on shaky ground, mistrust eroding their bond. Meanwhile, Nidhi and Arjun's bitterness boiled over. They didn't need days to realize what the test had confirmed. Their relationship was beyond saving. A week later, they signed divorce papers, their parting words tinged with anger and regret. Far from the group, Anand stood at the edge of a cliff, gazing at the waves crashing below. A faint smile tugged at his lips as he whispered, Love reveals its truths in ways we often fear to face. This is an original work of fiction created by Echoing Tales, a brand new channel blending suspense and mystery. Join us as we unravel a story shrouded in eerie echoes and spine-chilling twists every week. As we are just starting out, we need your support. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and hit the bell icon to help us keep creating more captivating stories. Until we meet again in the next tale, stay vigilant. And before you sleep tonight, remember to take one last look into the darkness.